The target that not a single Pakistani was killed. The Pakistanis also very carefully saying that they did not target any Iranian citizens in their brotherly country. The Pakistani military stressing that its aircraft did not violate Iranian airspace, but were able to fire standoff precision-guided munitions at those targets. Multiple targets were hit. Now, Balochistan, as I mentioned earlier, extremely important because China has built a huge port at Gaza. This is a part of the China Belt and Road Initiative, also known as the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It is of vital importance because of that link and the fact that for decades the Pakistani military has been fighting Baloch fighters who have been attacking military positions inside Pakistan. So Pakistan sending a clear message, but at the same time, it is ironic that both navies were recently holding maneuvers in the northern part of the Straits of Hormuz. Both sides met in Davos, where the Pakistani Prime Minister, of course, has now called off his visit, and they were discussing the threat emanating from armed groups inside Afghanistan, which was of mutual concern. Pakistan raised the issue with the Iranians about the Baloch Liberation Army camps operating on their side. The Iranians must have also told Pakistan that Jaish al-Adl was operating from Pakistani soil. So both sides are hitting these particular targets, but not targeting each other's militaries. And that, of course, would be a significant escalation if that was to happen. But at the moment, a measured response from both sides, and both sides stressing that none of the Pakistani or Iranian citizens were killed in this particular attack carried out by the Pakistani airspace. The aircraft did not cross into Iranian airspace. They were able to fire those munitions across the border and hit those targets. Suhail?
Thanks, Kamal. Of course, we'll continue to follow this story with you from Sukkot as the hours progress, and we'll catch up with you later in the day as well. But let's cross over now to Mohammad Marandi, who's professor at the University of Tehran. He joins us now from the Iranian capital. Mr. Marandi, good to have you with us for your analysis. 24 hours ago, we saw we heard what Iran did in terms of its attacks into Pakistan. China asked for restraint from Pakistan. That hasn't happened. So I'm wondering what your assessment is of how Iran may react now.
Well, the story is that after the war in Gaza and when things began to go downhill for the Israeli regime, they started activating terrorist organizations, both in Iraqi Kurdistan and in the sort of no man's land in Pakistani Balochistan. The Pakistani government has problems with that area and in controlling that area. And right now, there are large numbers of Pakistanis who are in Iran because of the economic situation, so near the border with Pakistan. So the Iranians discovered that a major operation, a major attack, terrorist attack was about to occur. And we've had an increase in terrorist attacks, as you know, from that area in Pakistan, inside Iran, where we had lots of casualties. So the Iranians felt that they had to strike immediately because something bad was expected to happen. Now, obviously, the Iranians didn't want to do this because they have excellent relations with Pakistan, and the economic relationship is to expand. The president has a special focus on that. But there is a big problem on the border as we speak, and it is being manipulated by the Israelis.
But you say that we don't have any proof of that to a certain extent because no proof has been provided. If you look at it from a cultural point of view, you have the Balochistan side of Pakistan and individuals there who've always felt that they've never been looked after by Islamabad properly and never been part of Pakistan since Balochistan was bought from Oman back in the late 50s. Then you've got your side, the Iranian side, the Baloch population there, who some are Sunni, some are Shiite, I believe. Is this more a cultural problem with the respective capitals about who Baloch people are and what rights they want?
Well, I really can't comment on the Pakistani Baluchistan issue because I'm not an expert on that, and I think there are a lot of people in Pakistan.
But you've just commented on groups in Pakistan that have been activated by Israel. So you have commented on it.
No,
sir.
there are two things. Yes, there are two things I commented on. One is that area is not well controlled by the Pakistani government, and the Pakistani government has a problem. There are a host of reasons. It's economic. Their focus is on the border with India. There's also Afghanistan. They have big problems with Afghanistan, just as we do. But there's a huge economic problem in Baluchistan, Pakistan. Now, whether they feel neglected by the central government, that's something that really an expert can speak on. But many are in Iran because of the very difficult economic situation in Pakistan. Well, in Iran, the situation is significantly different, even though it's very tough for them in Iran because they're not Iranian citizens and they're alongside the border. Mm-hmm. But the second issue is that because there's this no man's land on the Pakistani side of the border, more or less, that these groups have been able to station themselves there. And the Iranians had to strike. Let me just add something. It's sort of like in Kurdistan, Iraq. The Iraqi central government doesn't have the sort of control that it should have. And Erbil is unfortunately under a lot of influence. Of course, this is a bit different in the sense that Erbil is under direct influence. And we have bases for terrorist organizations alongside the border, which is well documented. Documentaries have been made where people go and visit those terrorist bases. So in Pakistan, it's not that the government wants them to be there. It's the fact that they don't have full control. In Erbil, it's, how should I put it, more nuanced.
Okay, we'll see what does happen and hope that escalation doesn't get any more pronounced in the coming hours. For the moment, Mohammed Marandi. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Now, heavy flooding has caused widespread devastation in regions across Lebanon. Many families have been trapped in their homes, while several refugee camps across the border in Syria have been damaged. Zaina Khoda reports now from Akkar in northern Lebanon.
For 3 days, this low-lying coastal area in northern Lebanon was inundated when nearby rivers overflowed during heavy rains. The waters may have receded, but people's lives have been turned upside down. Many homes suffered extensive damage. Nada Al-Ali tells us the water reached up to her waist. Those living here are some of the most vulnerable in Lebanon, where the economy has all but collapsed.
I lost everything. I have nothing left. I don't know where I'm going to stay. Relatives will let you stay for a few days, but then what?
Many here lost their livelihoods. They are demanding compensation from those in power, who they accuse of corruption and neglecting deteriorating infrastructure.
Every year they make promises and do nothing. They don't care about us. As you can see, we are not able to deal with this crisis alone.
Days of heavy rain transformed roads into rivers of mud. There are several informal settlements for refugees from neighboring Syria in this region as well. Tents were submerged by water that rose quickly. Hundreds of families were saved, but many are again homeless.
This is the first time we experienced something like this. All of a sudden, the water level rose. I had to be rescued by the Lebanese army.
People here say the floods is the worst they have seen in years, and it's now happening each year.
The river's water level reached up to here. Experts say global climate change is leading to intense bouts of rain after long periods of dry weather, and that's also contributing to the crisis.
But there are others who point the blame on the lack of infrastructure and barriers along the course of the rivers.
We have been telling the authorities for years that they need to build proper berms. If they do that, then we wouldn't have this recurring problem.
Concern is growing among communities living here, near the banks of two rivers, that the worst is yet to come. And more bad weather is forecast for next week. Zena Khuder, Al Jazeera, Northern Lebanon.
Well, still ahead here on the Al Jazeera News Hour, another victim in Ecuador's war on gangs as a prosecutor is shot dead in broad daylight.
Hello there. We've got some very nasty winter weather affecting Europe at the moment. That's thanks to storm